Commanders at Eagles, Bills at Chiefs. Those are our final four teams that can win the Super Bowl. Of course, in the money line over the weekend, we went 3-1 picking games. My one loss was I did have Detroit over Washington, though I did say if an upset was going to happen, I picked that game. In best bets, we did go 3 for 4. Arguably should have been 4 for 4. My only miss was my Eagles because we did not cover the 6.5 point spread. We won by 6, 28-22. Otherwise, it could have been a 4 for 4 week in best bets. That means in total this year, going into conference championship weekend, I am 195-89 straight up picking games this year. Best bets, I'm 58-99, which means if I get the Eagles Commander spread right next week, I'll be at my average for the year at 59%. If we can hit both conference championship games and the Super Bowl, I will be hopefully at 60% to end the year, which to me is a good benchmark in betting. You want to be about 3 for 5, 60% every single week. Just to let you guys know quickly that on Thursday, when we do my best bets and I officially make my predictions for the conference championship games, I will also be throwing in some player props along with the two games to give you guys a little bit of a boost if you want to copy my bets. Of course, all my odds are presented by FanDuel. Without further ado, though, the Chiefs, they defeated the Texans. Yes, there was two bad calls on Patrick Mahomes. I get it. Both of those calls were not roughing the passer. I know everybody wants to point their fingers at the officiating. I get it. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs go for a free P. Nobody wants to see the New England Invitational in the AFC Championship game go to the Kansas City Invitational. No, their seventh straight game in the AFC Championship game. I totally understand it. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs were the better team. They they played the better game. I thought the kickoff return, starting off the opening game where they got the ball all the way down to the 20-yard line, I thought that was the real difference in the game. Really came out, set the tone. Houston's offense really didn't do anything spectacular in the first half. Of course, Mahomes, Kelsey, that connection right down the field. Touchdown really set the tone. Kansas City then moved on, obviously winning the game 23-12. There was a situation there at the end of the game where Kansas City, they took the safety in the back of the end zone to waste more time off the clock. Ended up being a safety. If you got Kansas City at 9.5, obviously you did not cover. I had them at 8.5. Barely get the cover there. Washington. I mean, what a story. You guys know I just talked about Austin Arnold, my great buddy, Washington Commanders fan for a while. We've been talking about, the past couple weeks, what Jaden Daniels has done has been absolutely unbelievable under the circumstance. And I said going into the weekend, if there was going to be an upset, I thought this was the game where there could be an upset just because Detroit, I know they won 15 games and I know their defense is banged up, but really, if you look at their body of work outside of the Minnesota game in week 18, their defense had been bad for over a month. And again, a lot of that has to do with injuries, but they have been playing in shootouts essentially since post Thanksgiving. And I just thought at some point it was going to catch up to them. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the Commanders. I knew it was going to be a close game. I just thought that home crowd at the very end, maybe one last drive, could give Detroit an advantage. But Washington, I thought also on the defense side of the ball deserved a lot of credit because for all the talk about how great the Lions' offensive line was, Washington really beat Detroit up front. Jared Goff was hit on average dropbacks, had 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, including the pick six that obviously the referees missed the call there. It should have been a 15-yard penalty, should not have been a touchdown. But the way Washington was moving the ball, the funny thing is, they moved the ball better against Detroit than they did against Tampa. I mean, you could make the case that if Baker Mayfield did not fumble that weird trick play against Tampa, maybe Tampa gets the ball back, maybe Tampa goes down and beats Washington. And we've said this about the postseason. Once you get to the Elite Eight, a lot of people say obviously it's the best football weekend of the year. But all of these teams that make the Elite Eight, right? It's not luck, it's not anything. These are the best teams in football. And I said going into the year, the Commanders were my surprise for the year. I had them over the Dallas Cowboys in the division in second place behind my Philadelphia Eagles. Now, did I think they were going to win 12 games? No. But I thought, again, new head coach, new owner, new quarterback, everything new in Washington. You get the coach right, you get the quarterback right, you get the general manager right. Things change quickly in the NFL. I know there's a lot of people in Detroit. My good friend Jalen Sandvik, you guys know, he filled in for me last week when I was ill. Uh, you guys know how much of a diehard Detroit Lions fan he is. I know he's hurting right now. And I think the hard part for the Lions is like, it's not that they didn't have a great team this year. And I really thought Saturday night they really missed Aiden Hutchinson because, as I said, their pass rush, they just could not get a hand on Gene Daniels mostly all night long. But for Detroit, it sounds like they're going to lose Ben Johnson. Sounds like the Las Vegas Raiders are the leader in house there. Could be the Chicago Bears as well. Aaron Glenn, I keep hearing is the favorite for the Jets job. I think he's probably going to get that job. He's a former player with the Jets. Very interesting there to me that Detroit could lose both their coordinators. And I saw it happen with Philadelphia. And I think that the biggest misnomer about the National Football League is that every year is going to be the same. And Tom Brady, who I have been very critical of, as you guys know, in the broadcast booth, I thought did a phenomenal job. Actually, I thought that was his best all game of the entire season in the divisional round on Saturday night. Not only did he point out the 12 men penalty on Detroit, which was inexcusable and just, you know, a facet of what the entire night was, but I thought Brady really did a good job in saying, Lions fans think they're going to be back here next year, and Commanders fans think that, even if they don't win the Super Bowl, they could be right back here next year. And that's just not the case in the NFL. Teams make moves. Coaches get changed. There's new implementations every year. Teams that win close games don't win the close games next year. There's a lot of changeover in the NFL from year to year. Then we obviously get to this Sunday afternoon game, the Snow Bowl for my Philadelphia Eagles. What a great play by Jalen Carter to essentially save the game there on that third down I mean, the Eagles, they had a 13-point lead, and I kept thinking the whole time. And Jake Elliott, who had made some huge kicks in this game in the snow, field goal kicking is the weirdest thing, right? I mean, a guy, from 40 yards out drills one three straight times in the snow, and what seemingly would be an easier kick, 33 yards dead on in the snow, hooked it twice. And I kept thinking that was going to come back and cost us the game. Obviously, the Rams came down, they scored quick. I thought Chris Collinsworth did a great job detailing that. Philadelphia early in the game went a lot of no huddle, got the Rams off balance. The Rams were doing the same thing to Philadelphia in the second half, specifically in those last two drives in the fourth quarter. Stafford was really heating up. And I think, if Jalen Carter doesn't make that play, there is a possibility that we are looking at Commanders going to Los Angeles for the NFC Championship game. We do have to find out more of the status, obviously, on Jalen Hurts, how his knee is going to be doing with the lack of mobility. He took that nasty hit late in the third quarter. I mean, he pretty much could not move in the fourth quarter. Saquon Barkley was obviously huge again. The two big touchdown runs, one in the second quarter and the one in the fourth quarter when the Rams had just scored a field goal to make it a 3-point game at the time. Barkley again hit his head on the goalpost. He had four rushing touchdowns this year against the Rams, both in the regular and the postseason. And all four of those rushes were for 60 plus yards. At the end of the day, Commanders, Eagles, all NFC East championship game. The line right now it says it's about 6. I think that's about right. These two teams, if you remember, played a relatively low scoring game in Philadelphia in week 11. It was a Thursday night game where the Eagles' offensive line really took over in the fourth quarter of that game, which is what my team has been doing all year long. Remember the game in DC, week 16? That was the Sunday before Christmas. And Washington just ends up going on to win that game. Jane Daniels obviously makes some incredible plays there down the stretch. So I got to give Washington credit there. But overall, I do think that Philadelphia does come through. They win by about 6 to 6.5. I think that they will probably win by a touchdown. And then we get to the Baltimore at Buffalo game, the late Sunday night game. Josh Allen, I thought, again, the Bills' offense was incredibly efficient. They were running the football with Josh Allen. They were running the football with James Cook. Josh Allen only threw 7 passes in the first quarter. And the thing about this game, I know Mark Andrews obviously had the key fumble and then obviously had the drop 2-point conversion. Buffalo did not turn the football over in this game. In order for Buffalo to go and defeat Kansas City in Arrowhead next Sunday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo and Tracy Wilson and Jay Feely and everybody else on the call, in order for that to happen, um, Buffalo is going to have to, again, not be able to turn the football over. They're going to have to copy the same formula, and they're going to have to get a turnover from Kansas City at some point. Now, the Chiefs, I don't know how many people know this. The Chiefs have gone 7 straight games without a turnover. Some of that to me has to be walk, pure bounces, whatever it will be. Some of it may be just the fact of how efficient they are, obviously, offensively. But at the end of the day, man, I cannot pick Buffalo to defeat Kansas City unless something changes in the postseason. I know they've done it in the regular season. Can Buffalo overcome their demons? Everybody loves Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, and they had a great year. And obviously, when they get Derrick Henry rolling, they can be one of the best teams in the NFL. I've always defended Lamar Jackson. I've always thought, he's a top 3, 4 quarterback, at least in the AFC, top 6, 7 in the NFL. But his postseason stats are just not there. And it's one of the reasons why going into every year for the past couple of years, I have picked Cincinnati over Baltimore in the division because I know the Bengals did not make the playoffs this year, but that is no fault of Joe Burrow. They obviously have the incredible offensive tandem with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins. They even got Jochen Bosch coming in this year, and Kaseki had a great year for them. Cincinnati just did not have a defense. And Joe Burrow has the playoff resume. He went into Kansas City. He's the only other quarterback in the NFL outside of Tom Brady to go into Kansas City and defeat Patrick Mahomes. It's one of the reasons why I personally put Joe Burrow ahead of Josh Allen, even though I love Josh Allen, and I put him ahead of Lamar Jackson. Now, over the past few years, Josh and Lamar's teams have beaten Burrow's teams more head to head, but I think that's more the fact that those teams have better defenses. Buffalo's defense, I also think, has been an underrated story of the year this year. Again, they forced the 3 turnovers, the one interception on Lamar, and the 2 fumbles. They've been very optimistic this year with getting turnovers. They're going to have to do that. If they do not win the turnover battle against Kansas City in their house, I don't see how they can pull it off. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.